morning. Welcome to Maryville Cares. We are embracing a wonderful 2024 here at Maryville as we embark on many different topics that include families and children here in the Chicagoland area. And I want to introduce myself as Amy Kendal, the Administrator of Family-Based Services. And I'm delighted here to have a special guest here from Maryville. Our previous shows have shown other guests from agencies across the Chicagoland area, but we have one of our one and only, or one of many great people here at Maryville, Marikaw Carr. Welcome.
Thank you.
You're so welcome to be here to talk a little bit about balance. And before we get into our theme and our topic today, if Marikaw, if you can just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do at Maryville. And I know you've been with our team for a very long time, so
yes.
Welcome.
All right. Thanks. My name is Marikaw Carr. I'm one of the program supervisors over at our St. Monica's program. I've been with the company for about 13 years, going on 14.
Wonderful.
And what we do at our program, we serve moms who are recovering addicts and their children as well. It's a 24/7 program, so they stay at the program. We have 3 operating shifts, morning, evening, and overnight shift, monitoring the moms. And what we do at that program is we, give the moms a set of skills to help them, to continue their sobriety and get back into the real world. They get, parenting skills. They get vocational skills. We're helping them with job readiness and job interviews and things of that nature. We help them with housing. And we also give them social skills training as well. They also get clinical therapy as well. In some cases, we get family therapy as well, too.
Wow, I mean, quite comprehensive,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And we know that in the example of the recovery programs, you really recognize the fact that even under the best of circumstances, raising a family, there's just lots to do, lots of things going on. And when you and I were talking about this, you mentioned a phrase that we're familiar with, and you said it takes a village.
It takes a village. I know it's cliche, but yes, it takes a village. It does.
So our theme today is it takes a village, and it's really about what it means to sort of balance work and home, and recognizing that whether you're raising little ones, you might be caring for an elderly parent in your home, you might have teens, you might have all of the above, including animals and all those daily family stuff that's going on. And so Carr is really going to share with us today some insights and some thoughts for us to think about as we really try and figure out how to balance this, right? I mean, let's talk about that a little bit. When you say it takes a village, tease that out a little bit. What is that about?
When I say like it takes a village, it's not just, traditionally you're thinking like, it's just mom, dad, and it's the kids. It's not like that all the time. You may see that, but you don't see the behind the scenes, the day-to-day. How does everything work? Because sometimes mom and dad work 2 different shifts. And like with my case, with my wife and my kids, I have done all of the drop-offs in the morning, and once I do the drop-offs, I'm heading to work. And also the type of work that I do, sometimes I'm not your typical 9-to-5 shift. Sometimes I might work 8 hours, sometimes I may work 10, sometimes I may work 16. Just it's what I signed up for. So and my wife, she does all of the pickups, and sometimes there's times where she does work travel, so I will probably have to adjust, or we have to go to family, my mom, her dad, some of our friends, like in different organizations that we're in,
Right.
neighbors, like, everybody has a part that they play in, and vice versa, because sometimes people are in different, different things. My kids are also in extracurricular activities, whether it's soccer, gymnastics, basketball, baseball, like, so we have these so many different things, and we have to, sit back and actually, strategize this.
Well, and I think, you just pointed out two moments or two times in your day, drop off and pick up.
Mm-hmm.
That's not including getting up,
It's not.
eating breakfast,
It's not.
and then figuring out dinner
Yes.
and bedtime
Yes.
and all the things in between.
Yes. So even with that, like, I'm more so the cook in the house.
Okay.
I'm
coming to your house.
I'm the cook in the house. So there are, when I'm thinking, I'm like, okay, I can do this. And while I'm at work, I'm thinking about this the whole time. So, I'm like figuring out dinner and things like that, even though I'm working,
Mm-hmm.
So as I'm working, I'll take maybe like 5 to 10 minutes to, decompress and think about home for a second, and getting to think about, meals and things of that nature. What's a quick meal that I can cook or anything like that? Thinking about what's in the fridge or in the freezer, like that, And I try to keep it simple as possible, just like with when we serve our clients here. Protein, starch, and a vegetable. That's dinner. So I'm thinking about that, and just going through the motions of the day. And once I get home, and I'm also like one of our faster cooks too. I always try to buy things fresh as well, so I won't have to worry about thawing out or anything like that. And I try to make a meal big enough where it's 2 servings each, so tomorrow can be leftovers. So that's how I try to, prioritize that with like meals and things of that nature.
Well, when I'm listening to you, it sounds like planning is a real key piece to this. And if you can have leftovers, then that could be your lunch, or it could be your dinner, or one of the kids, or your wife. And I also hear you say that you're thinking a lot about this.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you navigate that for yourself without getting overwhelmed?
So how do I navigate that? Over the years, I've created.
I'm glad you're laughing. That's a good sign.
Over the years, I've created a skill where, I'm mostly like in my car a lot as well, because I'm driving, some far distances, So out in the car, I give myself some balance. So one day I may be listening to, music. One day I might be listening to a podcast, or one day I might be, listening to an audiobook. Like, I'm super big on audiobooks now.
Mm-hmm.
And as I'm listening, I'll give myself about another 5 to 10 minutes to think about home. Then I'll give myself another 5 to 10 minutes to think about work, So I try to like compartmentalize with everything as well. Once I pull into the parking lot of work, I'll turn my radio off and everything, just dead silence. I'll start to do a little bit of meditating, 30 seconds to a minute, not much, just to get myself ready for the day. And my motto is to myself and on my staff is to leave your pride in the car.
Tell me more about that.
Leave your pride in the car, because there's sometimes like the people that we serve, they've been dealt a terrible hand, and there are people that have wronged them that's not in front of them all the time. And we're the people that's with them every day, that they see every day. So sometimes they may say some things that, may not be great things. It may not be great things. And it's our jobs to not take that personal. So that's where I say to leave your pride in the car. Just because, and I've learned that like my first 3 months of working here at Maryville, there was a, client that said some harsh things to me, and 2 hours later, I was still upset at what he said, and he just came up to me and just like, hey, you're my favorite staff. I was like, you just said all that to me,
Yeah.
a couple hours ago, and then that from that day on, I was just like, you can't take these things personal, you cannot take it personal. So I preach that, so they can call me everything under the sun, and I'm still going to be here because this is what I signed up for. This is what I want to do. This is who I want to serve. Well,
and when I'm listening to you, I'm thinking the first thing that comes to top of mind for me is that we have a pretty good role model here to recognize that you're working in sometimes a very stressful environment.
Most definitely.
And, you've taken your skill set and what you've learned to get to the point of being a supervisor, which has another layer of responsibility.
Yes.
Not only for yourself, but now, supporting others. And as you've described in this work, it's very comprehensive. So there's a lot of team players.
Yes, it is.
And, it sounds like what you're saying is in your example, you're using that for the staff and, the women and children who are living there, because this really is a temporary home to where they're going to go back and, be back with their families or back in communities and navigating how to handle stressful situations.
Yes.
And I think when you and I were talking about this, it takes a village. I mean, you've created a village at the Maryville Recovery Home.
Most definitely.
And you've created a village, it sounds like, within your own family. And I think I just really want to hone in on that a little bit further for families who maybe don't have, there's limits there for some reason. Maybe they moved to Chicago and their family's not here. Or maybe, they're living in a completely different neighborhood. I'm very blessed too that when I was raising my 3 children when they were younger, I had a real, as I always say at our Maryville Crisis Nursery, that, you need a circle of support, which is another way of saying, you need a village. And, quite honestly, that really helped me get through and allow them to be a part of other things while I was at work or just navigating that. How do you think, or do you have some suggestions for people to consider where maybe you're just not sure, maybe you're uncomfortable approaching other people, or where do you think you find trusted people to create that circle of support or the village?
Good question. I think with that, it is scary to make new friends and and meet new people and things of that nature, because it's like you're so used to who you're dealt with, who you're dealing with. There may be certain things that may trigger you from you'll see like some different mannerisms from somebody that hurt you, and you're like, no, I don't think I like that person. Off back, we've all had that time where we looked at somebody and just like, I don't think I can be friends with this person, or I don't think I like this person, But my suggestion, and I'm doing this myself, I started going to the gym this year and everything again. So one of my goals is to speak to somebody new once a week.
I like that.
Once a week. Speaking to someone new once a week. And also for those who are a little, that's a little like, not wanting to go and like meet somebody or these new things. Ask yourself why you don't want to meet this person. If you feel like, I don't know if this person is right for me, talk to yourself. It's not, you're not crazy if you talk to yourself, people. I talk to myself a lot. I just don't talk back, but so you just want to ask these different questions. And just like, what about this person that I don't like? I don't know what I don't like about this person. I don't even know this person. Now I will start listening to them. Just, introduce yourself. What's the worst that can happen after introducing yourself to someone? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, for parents, trying to navigate that support, I remember, when my son was younger and he was in preschool, and at the time where he was going, I was one of the very few working parents. Most were home, women staying at home. And so, there was a point where I kind of felt like, I didn't feel as connected or didn't feel maybe a part of, and I was trying to navigate that. And, one thing I remember doing, which was a little uncomfortable, but they had a fundraiser, and it was making donuts. And I said, you know what, I wanted to be a part of this and know, the teachers and get to know the parents a little bit more. Not that I was necessarily looking for a friendship, but he was spending time there, and I just, you just want to feel like they're in a safe place and understand. And so I did that, and that, got my feet wet and things like that. And as I got to grammar school, I found that even when they're at the school, trying to find people that are, sort of like-minded in terms of like what your own family values are. And I know it's a little bit harder these days when people are at pickup. Our family's sort of around that they could say, hey, how you doing? How's it going? Or is everybody in the car and the kids just jump in the car? Or, if they have a family night. Really, those are really critical times. Not just, it really isn't about education. It's really about the kids seeing you value where they're at every day.
Exactly.
And you're getting to know them. And I do remember, interestingly enough, as I'm thinking about this with you, my son was in first grade, and it was the teacher who said to me, he really enjoys time with this other little boy. And I said, oh, that's really good to know. And I got to know his mom, and they became very good friends throughout grammar school. And that nurtured a real friendship as I got to know the mother. I think the other thing that, again, depending on where you live and what your comfort level is and, where you put your time, but as a parent now, as we all know, it's not just about us. What is it that we value? So if there is a church, and, many churches have different activities for families or special things for the kids or a community center, it is really hard because I think, in talking about the subject of balance, I remember feeling like, I don't really have time to nurture these relationships because I got to go to work, I got to, and so you kind of get caught in the rat race. But at the end, it could make my life a little bit easier.
Yes.
And then that's also connections for your children.
Yes, it is.
And, how, any other tips for the balance?
For the balance, I would say you're only as good as your team, right? Just with that balance, it's, you have to know when and when to shut things off. Myself, I'm a manager, right? So I'm on the call 24/7.
Yeah.
So there are times where I have to disconnect from work. Because I'll go crazy,
Well, when you say disconnect, let's see, what does that really mean?
So when I have to disconnect, because again, although I'm on 24/7 call, I still have to be dad 24/7 as well. So again, when I go back to compartmentalizing, if I get a call, I'll answer it. And also what helps us as managers as well, I may not be able to get that call right away, but I can call you back within 30 minutes before you call our next manager. So with that, sometimes I have my days where I'm stressed, if I get a call, because sometimes I do get anxiety from calls.
Really? I could imagine that. I've been there.
Yes.
Because you don't know you don't know what you're gonna hear, and then you may need to respond.
Exactly.
So it's the unknown of what's gonna be happening here.
Exactly. And I may not answer that call right away because I have to get myself together. You know, if I'm not okay for anybody. You know, so I'll give myself maybe like 5 minutes to, get my nerves back in order. And then I'll give the call back. And one thing that I learned in this book that I've read, Atomic Habits.
Good one. I have
Yes.
a copy of that, yes.
So, when you answer the phone, answer with a smile. So I start to do that, and 90% of the calls are not that bad,
Well, and I appreciate your recommendation. Again, you want to say what that book is again?
Atomic Habits.
And, we don't want to just promote this particular book, but it is about habits.
It's about habits.
And I think, that's one example. And I will say that, the Chicago Public Library, I was on their website today looking up a book about finance, trying not to purchase it so I could, but the Chicago Public Library also has amazing resources for children and adults.
Yes.
And so you could get that book. But, we're going to be wrapping this up, and we have a few more minutes. But I just want to say you've given multiple examples of ways to create balance in your own life. And, how that can be intentional. And it sounds like you've been really thinking about that, but not just thinking, but just slowly putting little things to action. For example, before you walk into work, you just stop and, be quiet for a minute. Or you've decided that I don't have to pick up the phone right now. I don't have to respond to that text. I don't have to respond. We don't have to react. We can respond.
Exactly.
And that mindset can really be very beneficial to everybody around you.
Yes. And even speaking with that, it is funny that you said with everyone around me. So my 5-year-old daughter is like connected to the hip with me, right? And, young kids, they love phones and devices and things like that. So when I'm home, she's always on my phone. And there has been times where I've missed calls because she ignores them. So what I've did, and again, trial and error. So what I did with my phone, I would, whoever is from, Maryville, I would put MVA. And when my daughter sees that, Dad is work. Do you got to answer this call?
So she's your in between, check and balance there.
Yeah, so she's a part of my work village now.
Wonderful. Well, I think what you said, it's trial and error, and we do really have to be creative and
Yes.
figure out how we can manage this, because really you are the role model for your children. So as a parent, and that was really the nature of why I think you said it takes a village, because when we spoke, you spoke more as a father, because at the end of the day, that resonates to other parts of, your life with, your other family members and your community and obviously your work life, or your work time. And, are there any, we got just maybe a minute and a half or so here, but can you think of maybe 1 to 3 tips that you could shout out for families to consider, for parents to think about maybe doing something different or trying that worked well for you?
I would probably say try not to think outside the box. I know we have our family traditions and things of that nature, and we do things just because that's the way it is. Sometimes we have to change that, and we have to get different results. We have to evolve. It's okay to not have an answer right away. We can say, I don't have the answer for that right now. People, I'm a manager, and people look at me for answers. I can't answer a question if I don't have the answer right that moment. Just because I don't have the answer don't mean the house is going to burn down.
Well, absolutely. And I think one of the other things that we talk a lot about at Maryville, which, we're very proud of the fact that Maryville Academy has been around for 140 years. This is our 140th anniversary year, and we're in the middle of it. And asking for help is a sign of strength. And a lot of what you've described in our conversation is about asking for help, pausing and really recognizing what you can manage and what you can just hold on a minute, the pause, which really can be quite impactful because you're impacting another generation. Like, your children are watching us. And sometimes we tend to forget that a little bit.
Yes.
I do want to say that Maryville does have parent cafes on the west side of the city, and if anybody's interested in exploring that, that's a nice family support. You get a nice meal, and the kids can come, and you get to talk to other parents. So before we leave, I do want to mention our website is there, noted, maryvilleacademy.org, to get more information. And you can also call the Maryville Crisis Nursery, which will give you information, 773-205-3637 for parent cafes, or if you want to find more out about our recovery programs and all the other great programming going on at Maryville. And, as we conclude here, one last thing you want to share for balance.
For balance. One last thing for balance. You got me off guard with that one.
It's okay. You did it. You said you took a pause.
Yes. Yes. Just pause and think about what's your options. You don't want to jump and make a drastic decision, especially if it's life-changing.
Yeah. So we thank you for joining us this evening, and we look forward to you coming to see the Maryville Cares show in February. So we thank you so much for being here this evening.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, of course. You're coming back. And, enjoy your evening, and, Happy New Year to 2024, and best wishes to all. Thank you.
Thank you.